And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And after a very fitful night's sleep, we seem to have picked up another person coming with us, a chap called Phil Hemmings, who's another supervisor. So RC Ledford is at the moment stuffing himself with omelettes and boring him to tears and talking shop, which is my cue for let's get out of here. Because we're going to end up talking about vessels and jobs, which is like Dracula and the Garlic to me. So I'm going to go off and buy some popcorn, have a little walk around, and then probably go for a swim. So yeah, another day, another part of the mobilisation, and there's no rush in it. Apparently they tell me the weather's quite bad out there, so it might be Wednesday and today's Sunday. So here we are, jammed up in this hotel. Worst places to be, isn't there? Anyway, what's it called? Bloom where you're planted, as they say.
And here we are on the main street of Al-Kabar. This is the same road we had that big smash up on earlier. And last night, it being Saturday night, I think all of the locals use this as some kind of drag strip. And they go honing up and down here in various souped up cars and jalopies and motorcycles. And then the police come and shut them all down and arrest everybody, and then it goes quiet again. So once again, another great test of the Sony XM5 noise cancelling headphones, which are really earning their money at the moment. And yeah, we're going to go for a bit of a walk today. One of my impressions about being in the Middle East, this part of the Middle East especially, I know I used to live out here, is just the soullessness of it really. It's just the desert, and I don't know what it'd be like if I actually lived here permanently. It'd probably be hideous. I miss the seasons and I need cold and rain and animals and civilization. But I keep telling myself that everything you see here has been brought here. Nothing is from here. And if we take a look around at this marble tombs that they've built, and just like sand and desert and rubble in between, it really is the last place on earth. And yeah, it's one of these places. It's like probably like Antarctica. Nothing there of any natural resource apart from the stuff that's under the ground. And yeah, not my favourite part of the world, and not my favourite set of people either. Now, these are the people that organised the the disappearance of that chap in Istanbul, Khashoggi, and not so recently ago, executed 81 people in a wanna. Now, if you can imagine a square of 9 men, 9 by 9, all gone at Chop Chop Square. God knows what they did, but they got rid of them fairly quickly. And I'm sure Amnesty International would have something to say about that. But yeah, this part of the world, it's like you have to wonder where all your efforts and all the money that they make out of this oil is actually going. But we shan't look too far into this philosophically, because that wouldn't do us any favours, and too much navel gazing is bad for you. Instead, let's go down the shop and buy some popcorn. Just wandering around looking at the street furniture. I've come across these things. There's a windy handle on the side. Yep, and there's a prayer rug underneath, and a direction of winding. These are, I think this is some kind of mobile call to prayer thing if you get caught short without a mosque and you need to pray. Anyway, yeah, tons of these all over the place with a little prayer mat that's all chained down. So yes, a drive-in mosque. Maybe. Starting to heat up a bit now. Yep, that concludes my little shopping mission this morning. It's like, you know, you're bored when the most interesting thing of your day is going out to buy an extension lead, 2 bags of popcorn and a squeezy bottle. But it filled a couple of hours. And well, what's on the cards now is I'll probably go back and have a nice little swim. Unfortunately, I've been sucked into going for lunch with RC and the other chap who's turned up. Already he kind of collared me a bit of breakfast, and they started talking about vessels and the importance of work. And it's like Dracula and the garlic, I just didn't want anything to do with it. So I would rather wander around in the streets of Alkmaar, roasting myself without sunglasses and have to listen to all that nonsense. And on the subject of wandering around the streets of Alkmaar, you've got to be a little bit careful. Every time I set foot out of here, I'm reminded of the horrors that Frank Gardner and Simon Cumber went through when they got ambushed by that Al-Qaeda cell in Riyadh, which is not a million miles away from here. Simon's dead, Frank's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And you've got to have your wits about you and a little bit of situational awareness. My situational awareness is actually okay, and I know my escape routes, and I've got my EDC about my neck. So yeah, that was my fallback position if it all went peaked on. But yeah, it's hard to imagine anything actually kicking off around here, but you never know. These things can change on a sixpence, and that's what makes this part of the world very dangerous occasionally. It's not the worst place I've worked. The place that I felt was probably the worst was Nigeria, Port Harcourt. That place just oozed criminality. It was like a festering jungle sore, and everyone was out to get what they could. And unfortunately we'd had a few drinks in Port Harcourt and we're getting a bit lippy. So when the child came up and asked us if we'd like to buy him a Coca-Cola, and we all told him to get fucked because we'd all drunk, he came back 20 minutes later with an AK-47, and he got his can of Coke after that. I mean, it's lucky really, we could have had the watches, everything. But yeah, a bit dodgy. The place that was probably the most skanky was probably Indonesia. Terrible place. The portside town of Tanjung Priok, just outside Jakarta. It just infection. That's the only way I can describe it. Just a complete, like, you know, in Star Wars they say, oh, you'll never find a big hive of scum and villainy. Well, that was pretty much Tanjung Priok. So, Daman Kingdom, Saudi Arabia is actually quite civilised after that, which is a crazy thought really, because it is the Middle East and it is still a developing country. But there's no way I'd actually consider living here. It's just soulless. That's the only way I can say. It's just soulless. Everything here is from somewhere else, and nobody really wants to be here. God knows what the locals do with themselves. Their lives just must be so, I don't know, bankrupt. Perhaps they find it all in Islam. I don't know. Never talked to one really. The last time we were talking about helicopter safety earlier this week and jumping out of helicopters and how you should plug yourself in. The last time I actually saw a local person from Saudi getting out of a helicopter, he was in full dish, dash and gutra, you know, the tea towel and the fan belt thing on his head, and he was carrying a goat because it was Eid. Needless to say, this goat got knackered up for Eid al-Adha and promptly scoffed. But all safety out the window. It's their country, it's their place, they can do what they want. But it did rather make a bit of a mockery of all the safety talk and the chat we've had about tucking things in and jumping out the helicopter windows. Right, let's cross this road. So yeah, God knows what it must be like actually being from here. I don't know, nothing would make me want to fly an airplane into a tower block, but there you go. Different strokes, different folks. I think this must be where they're keeping RC. He's been doing nothing but waffle about work ever since he got here. Tiresome creature.